And so we would now transition into last mile funds. And we're forging ahead. And so we would now transition into last mile funds. I have two slides in the deck. One was what Mendocino County will be eligible to apply for, or applicants within Mendocino County will have as much as $57.5 million to serve the unserved population of 9,000 people. We, through the consortium CASIF grant in the past, we made an application, or we did the network design, which suggested that it would cost $500 million to provide all those unserved households with fiber to the home. And that includes the middle mile and last mile dollars. But as you see, and so I don't know how much it will cost to provide the middle mile dollars, but if we have perhaps 20% of the total that is needed. So we're in a deficit of, we'll need to provide some wireless connectivity. It's with the funds that are available, we cannot provide underground fiber optics to every household in Mendocino County. That needs to be acknowledged. And so we're in the process of examining and designing how to best utilize the $57 million that is available to incumbent providers, as well as JPAs, cities, counties, and other entities that wish to make applications to provide services. I see Jez has her hand up. Go right ahead.
I'm wondering, is that 9,674 individuals or households?
Households, I believe. Yeah, I mean, and I think that we actually have like lat long for those households. And so there were, I think that at a previous meeting, we discussed the 3 definitions of rural counties. And through the proceeding, the county became a participant and requested, there were 3 models, and that's on the next slide. But in the infinite wisdom, they opted for a 4th model. So initially, I'll forward to the previous slide. These were rejected. There were models from the U.S. Census Bureau that had 11 rural counties, and Office of Management and Budget suggested that there were 21 models, and RCRC suggested 37 rural counties. And Mendocino County would have received somewhere between 17 million and 82 million. But they opted for a different model that has 27 rural counties, in which case our partners at the consortium of Marin, Napa, and Sonoma were all designated as urban counties, whereas Mendocino remains a rural county. So the 9,000 households nets Mendocino County as much as 57 million, whereas Sonoma County in the other bracket has 8,677 unserved households, but will only be receiving 19 million, a little over 19 million. And so again, this was discounted. These models were, they decided that the model that has 27 rural counties was the most equitable in terms of dividing the unserved population equally between the groups. So a house, I mean, in rough approximations, an unserved household in the urban bracket will be getting about as much funding as an unserved house in the rural bracket, based on the number of counties in each. Pause for questions. I'll move to the next slide.
So sorry, does John Schuster at the Mendocino County Office of Ed. I know I mentioned this last time. I'm just curious, as we talk about the last mile for the unserved, is that funding limited to not providing wireless access, like with something like Starlink, et cetera? Because I'm just imagining most of the AT&T, et cetera, Comcast probably won't touch those installations because it's so expensive to get fiber in the ground. So what are the requirements for what we call like a service provider? Can it be an outsource to something like that where we're just paying a company like Starlink or another third party instead of trying to get fiber in the ground? I'll mute out.
I don't know specifics with regard to Starlink, but I think the requirements are that it provides a service of 100 megabits per second down and 20 megabits per second up. And so if those can be provided wirelessly by a vendor, then that's acceptable. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's definitely, they're beyond that. Their capabilities are beyond that. Obviously, there's still what's called a wait list. But my thought is that if we start that process and start the application, because the delay or it can be several months to a year. Like if you apply right now, it's looking into 2023 before you can get your Starlink connection. But I don't know how the red tape works on this process, but I'm just thinking that might be a much quicker way and viable way to leapfrog the fiber in the ground, so to speak.
And I agree that it should be part of the solution. I'm not sure how they're going to fit in. Starlink has in the past applied for Rural Digital Opportunity Funds or RDOF funds. And I don't have any visibility as to what their plans are with regard to the CASIF federal funding account, which is what we're talking about, the 2 billion for last mile. And time will tell whether or not they make applications, I suppose.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly. And so the other requirements with regard to these funds, was there a question?
So yeah, sorry, I had my hand up, but I guess you can't see it. Yeah, this is Brian Hughes. I have a quick question. You referring to incumbent providers like AT&T and Comcast. What about new providers that might be showing up that want to bid on this?
I believe that they are eligible. If they are a wireless provider, I could run through the list.
No, but I mean, even for doing fiber in the ground.
And okay, so the state will be coming through with the middle mile fiber on the highway routes.
Yes.
And then money will be made available for last mile routes that can be fiber, and applicants, I believe that the applicants that you're suggesting would be eligible to make an application.
Okay.
Whether it be fiber or wireless.
Okay, so it's not limited to just incumbents then. Okay, thank you.
No. I mean, the county is an eligible applicant. Any joint powers authority, appropriate joint powers authority, is an eligible applicant, as well as cities and many other categories.
Okay, but again, I would just want to kind of get some clarification. Let's say, for example, a company was formed to address this that was able to come in and underbid, say, for example, the incumbent providers to do the last mile of fiber. Would they be available to access these funds and to bid on these projects?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
We could have, certainly, perhaps the director of the consortium, Calvin Sandine, might want to reinforce my answer, but I think so. It's going to be competitive, and the county will be examining its options as well and endorsing whatever works best for the greater good.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Certainly. And so these funds must be encumbered by 2025, the federal deadline, and they must be spent before 2027. So the applications they're targeting for July of 2022, but have not yet made the application process fully visible. Any other questions at this time?